One of my favorite things to do when I'm kind of looking at a body part is to look at sports and disciplines, kind of other areas where this particular body part is kind of like flourishing or big or well developed or strong or whatever the case might be. So in the last few days, I've been thinking about the quads. I want to develop my quads. Now, obviously, bodybuilding is one area you can look at to kind of think about what people do for quads. You look at, Tom Platz, you can look at all sorts of different sources and work out, okay, what did he do to develop quads? Now, we know that if you have extremely good dorsiflexion or your ability to kind of shove your knees over your toes, you're probably going to be quad dominant. Now, if you're lacking that dorsiflexion, you're probably going to be hip dominant because you don't have that ability to kind of send your knees over. And basically, the more you stick your ass backwards, the more glutes you kind of engage, and the more you send your knees forward, it's more quads. So if you don't have the ability to send your quads, into the next room, you're going to be pretty stuffed. This guy here is a cyclist. He's one of those velodrome cyclists. The stadium track kind of goes in circles. I've never seen quads like this in my life. Now, I don't know if this guy's natural or not natural, what the case might be, but this dude is just simply enormous. Now, what do these guys do? Well, we know that they ride a bike a lot and they sprint. I don't know how long their kind of heats are, how long their matches or competitions are, but I don't think it's all that very long. So it's all about sprinting, maintaining that speed, let's say for 1 or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, something like this. I could be wrong by this. I'm not an expert in this sport, but it's not like long distance cycling where you go for like 300 Ks. It's not like that. Some of those guys have pretty developed quads and calves and whatever, but they're not massive like this guy. This guy is built for speed. This dude apparently squats pretty good as well. He's like 600 pounds or something like this. So he's a very, very good squatter. Now, once again, I do not know whether this guy's natural or not. I've never seen legs like this. I mean, his legs probably look bigger than they are because the rest of him is not that well developed. So one thing you can do is cycle a bike. So one of you guys actually mentioned this a few days ago when I was struggling in the early morning sessions. One of you guys said just jump on a stationary bike and just bang out a few minutes and you increase your body temperature and your quads will get warmed up and whatever. And I thought that was a brilliant idea. Yesterday I couldn't do it because the bike is currently in my study and the study's near my family's sleeping, so I didn't do it. But I'm going to move that bike out into a different area where I can use that in my 5 a.m. sessions. As you saw already in this video, I did that today. I jumped on the bike and I kind of cycled for, I think it was like 10 or 15 minutes. Got something like 3 or 4 Ks. And I was kind of focusing on quad contractions. I mean, when you're cycling, it's pretty much all quads. If you're one of those road cyclists and you got that special shoe that kind of like clips in, then I guess you can be a little bit more hip flexor dominant and hamstring or whatever, but I'm not at that level yet. All I really want is get some blood into those quads. So when I go to the squat, I feel, the quad is on the map and I can kind of use or load the quads a bit more. Funnily enough, what I found by doing this today is that my ankle dorsiflexion improved a little bit. I felt a little bit more fluidity in my hips and my ankles. Now, I've said this in the past that the body is kind of matched up, linked up. It's all kind of like rolled up into one system, really. So I've said stuff to you before about if you stretch your hamstring, your dorsiflexion is going to improve because this fascia that wraps our whole freaking organism, wraps up the hamstring. And then if you kind of elongate the hamstring, there's like slack in the system gets kind of put in and then the calf releases a little bit and therefore your ankles feel a little bit more mobile. So that kind of relationship. Today when I did the quads, I don't know what the mechanism there or the explanation there is, but I felt quite good in my ankles and my knees and my hips, probably just because I warmed up. But anyway, it was an interesting experiment. After I did that, I went into pin squats. Pin squats kind of felt good. Once again, probably due to the fact that I warmed up. But I know for a fact that you can't just warm up anything, just do any exercise and expect the same kind of effects. The other day when I did RDLs, first thing in the morning before my squats, my mobility didn't improve. My mobility felt even worse. I felt like I was doing an RDL with the bar on my back. So exactly how I was warming up is how I was moving with the bar on my back. So if you kind of warm up in a way where you are sort of loading your quads and sending your knees forward over your toes, that kind of translates to the following thing that you do, the squat in this case. So I was feeling good. Worked up to, I think this was 260 kilos for 1 rep on high pins. Then I went to the squats. I hit 200 today. Felt good. I put the ollie shoes on. I thought about doing some volume with ollie shoes, but I thought, okay, let's not test too many things at once. I want to know exactly if this cycling business is going to benefit me, if this is actually a thing. So right now I've introduced cycling and I've introduced leg extensions. Today, man, after I did all of the squatting, I went to the leg extension machine and I did 10 sets of 10 at 100 kilos. And I really gave my quads a thumping. Felt really good, kind of was... there was a bit of trouble walking out of the place, but there's nothing like smashing your quads. Now, for me, I've said this to you guys in the past, that after all these days of squatting, the only thing that gets my quads upset is the pig squat routine. So only high volume gets my quads going. If I do, like, I don't know, 5x5 or like something heavy, like at 80% or 70% or something like this, where I do relatively heavy weight for, like, say, I don't know, lower than 10 repetitions, the only thing I feel the following day is my adductors. My adductors and my glutes. I might feel my hip flexors. I never feel my quads. 630 days on, I can pretty safely say that I'm not quad dominant because I never feel the aftermath of fatigue in my quads. So I think it's pretty fair to say that I need to work on my quads to give me that little bit of push. When I set my PR, I've kind of mentioned this story before. When I set my PR, I was kind of on a block off doing lots of leg extensions. Then I had a day off from leg extensions. And then the following day, I went in and I was able to do the PR 210 kilos. So I think the quads are very, very important if you want to squat vertical. If you think about it, what muscles, let's just say you've got this ample, by the way, this fella is another subscriber, introduced himself to me. Really cool. Once again, I feel like a broken record, but I just love talking to you guys. Like I said, putting faces on some of these comments that I see in the comment section. So it was really cool. We were actually talking about quads. He was actually saying that when he walks to the gym, he started walking to the gym 10 or 15 minutes, and he feels like he feels a lot better when he's squatting and deadlifting just purely by the walk. So there's definitely something about just moving, moving your joints. It's sort of like like a cardio exercise before you go onto the main strength movement. So there's something to it, even he was saying. So if you just imagine that you have unlimited dorsiflexion, and you can just send your knees into the freaking next room. What do you think you're going to be loading predominantly if your torso is perfectly vertical? You're going to be loading quads and you're going to be loading glutes, predominantly quads. So let's say you don't have that dorsiflexion. What's going to happen? You're going to be loading the posterior chain more. So in a way, your body already knows when you load the bar up, okay, I'm pretty good with posterior chain muscles. So I'm not going to allow this guy to send us into something that we are not good at. And so your body kind of locks up throughout the day in certain ways because he wants you to load the posterior chain, because the body's always looking for a path of least resistance. This is 200 kilos. I'm not happy with this. With all of what I've just said, I want to be more vertical. So just check this out. It was like a 45-degree angle torso, really. And this is a high bar. So I don't like that at the bottom. I want to be more upright. Obviously, I can put on all these shoes and whatever, but I want to kind of work out the weaknesses in the kind of upstream body parts. I just don't want to put like a Band-Aid, which is these ollie shoes that I'm putting on now, which I use as an accessory lift, but I don't want this to be my primary kind of go-to. So if you have this weakness, so let's say the quads, your body kind of subconsciously sends you away from using those muscles. But what if we isolate those buggers? We isolate them with leg extensions. You guys mentioned hack squats. I mentioned cycling, sprints. And we just really get that muscle really pumped up and strong. I think my intuition, my gut feeling is right now that your body will start to, even in your walking, your gait, your running, your body will start to kind of shift and unlock some of this fascia, which is locking you up from using those muscles. Because all of a sudden, this is a viable option for the body, for the central nervous system. This is something we could use for our human movement because this is now our strength. Do you know what I mean? So it's almost like we can blame how we grow up. We can blame what we do for a living. We can kind of blame all these different things. 23 hours outside the gym, for setting us up for failure in that 1 hour of the gym during the day. So if we can somehow attack that weakness and make that weakness our strength, I reckon our body will start to change and our mobility will open up, because this thing is no longer a weakness, it's a strength. This is how my brain is thinking right now. All you have to do is record yourself in your top set and work out exactly what your body wants to use when the shit gets heavy. You know what I mean? Maybe my quads are good for 100 kilos squat, but I start loading 120, 140, 180, 200, and my quads are like, we're out, man. We can't push this stuff. The boys at the back can do this. We can't. And so the body just assumes the best position for the boys at the back to freaking use, which is stick your ass back and go for it. So this is kind of where my brain is right now. This is what I'm thinking. And this is what led me to do what I did next, was 10 sets of 10 at 100 kilos in leg extensions. Now, I'm not a fan of leg extensions in terms of how they feel. I don't subscribe to the idea that this is a knee killer. I don't understand why people think leg extension is going to snap your knees. But in the same token, they're going to say that skull crush is fine for the elbows, or bicep curls is safe for the elbows. Why is one lever kind of like a pivot safe and the other one isn't? Anyway, I think if you're smart about it and you use proper kind of technique with it, and you don't jerk yourself up or whatever, you kind of use proper technique, you're going to be fine. And certainly my legs feel fine, my quads feel exhausted, my knees feel good. But there's this like industry kind of idea that you can't do leg extensions, man, because you're going to snap your knees, your ACL is going to rupture. I think that's all bull, to be honest with you. So I'm going to spend a lot of time with leg extensions. I think this is the best thing that I can do in terms of loading this thing. But in the same time, I'm thinking about cycling. I'm thinking about getting really accustomed to sprinting. So my stationary bike at home is one of those spin bikes. And the way you put resistance is there's like a little knob that you kind of spin around, and essentially a brake on that flywheel. So I can crank that thing real hard, and I should probably just stand up on the pedals and just go like 15 seconds all out, just like smash myself, and then take a break, rather than just cycle aimlessly, low kind of intensity for like 30 minutes. I don't think that's not how I'm gonna develop the big juicy quads like that fella with the cyclist, whatever his name is, Robert Fosterman, I think his name is. And just type into Google Robert Fosterman cyclist velodrome, and you'll see, man, that I don't even know what that thing is, man. Like his quads are just out of world. So this is what I like to do. I like to look at other disciplines, kind of like wrestlers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen wrestlers. Wrestlers have these like humongous, I'm not talking about WWE wrestlers, even like Olympic wrestlers. They have like really well-developed traps and neck. There was a time a few years ago where I was kind of fascinated by that, and I started kind of doing, those neck extensions and curls and flexions, whatever you want to call them, to kind of like feel what they feel. But they do a lot of neck training. Same with F1 drivers. They have kind of like rather well-developed necks because of all those G forces that are like, they're pulling, when they're turning these freaking F1 cars around the track. Stupid G's. So anyway, if you want to, learn or study particular body parts, find disciplines, find sports where that particular body part is kind of flourishing, and see what they do. What do they do to develop that body part? That's kind of, what made me kind of look up cycling. I just looked up big quads, and this guy came up, and I was like, you get that by riding a bike? Jesus Christ. Once again, he might not be natural. I don't know. Anyway, guys, that's where my brain is right now. I'll catch you guys tomorrow for another workout. Peace out.